Welcome to Coastal Conversation, episode 19. Thanks for listening today. As always, remember Colossians 4:6 says, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." That is our goal today. Well, August is here, and around Baldwin County, that means it is back to school. My guest today is Dr. Shannon Smith, principal of Spanish Fort High School. Go Toros.
Go Toros.
And a member here at Coastal Church. Dr. Smith was named the principal of Spanish Fort High School in 2022 and had been an assistant principal in Baldwin County School System since 2012. Prior to moving into administration, Dr. Smith taught math at Murphy High School for 10 years and served as the varsity girls soccer coach. Dr. Smith is from Atlanta, Georgia, and earned a soccer scholarship to attend the University of South Alabama, where she met her husband, Isaac Smith. Isaac and Shannon have two daughters, Schuler and Audrey. Dr. Smith's hobbies include reading, boating, working out, and spending time with family. I know you are going to enjoy getting to know Dr. Smith. I know you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. So help me welcome today to Coastal Conversations, Dr. Smith.
Thank you very much. It's an honor.
Thank you so much for being here. I know this week is crazy busy for you and getting into all, I'm going to take my glasses off because they're getting a little humidity.
Foggy.
Foggy. But I know this is crazy. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being with us here on Coastal Conversations and taking the time. This week, many kids in Baldwin County are headed back to school.
That's right. T-minus 2 days.
I know you guys are excited and getting everything ready at your schools. I know there are several principals that attend Coastal Church that they're in the rush of that. Miss Guy over at Spanish Fort Elementary, like she had to move whole buildings.
She did. She's a rock star.
I know all the things. So she was like deer in headlights. I got to get it all done. All the things. But I wanted to bring you on so that you could help us as parents. And you're a parent of a high schooler,
right,
as well, and help some students that may listen to this podcast to make this the best year yet. And I think leading off with godly wisdom and godly counsel from you is going to help us a lot. I just know that. So thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
All right, let's go in. Let's dive in. The first question, what are some effective strategies for getting back into a school routine after a long break?
Ooh. Well, I know my teenager likes to sleep in as much as she can. So I think, spend a couple days setting that alarm, so it's not a shock to your system on day one. That way you're also really excited the night before the first day of school. And it's hard to fall asleep still, in my 20th something year of education, I still get those first day of school nerves.
Yeah.
So I think just trying to get into that routine before it's a necessity to get back into the routine, I think that just helps parents and the students all together.
And getting your body acclimated to that.
Absolutely.
We kind of make our son do that. Go ahead and pretend like you're going to school today. Set your alarm, do your things, go to
bed. Eat your
bed.
breakfast at the time you would for school and eat a good lunch and try and sit down with your family and have dinner. Yeah. All the things you try and do during a school year that you've kind of, been a little lax on during the summertime because you can. It's just time to get back in the swing of things.
Get back in those time routines and all the things you would do. How important is it for students to set goals for the school year? And what are some good examples of some goals that they could set? So how important are goals for them to set? I know we want to set realistic goals.
Right.
But then what are some good examples of some goals that you might recommend for them to set?
So I guess my expertise is more teenagers in the high school setting. So, and working with my daughter, who's a rising 10th grader, I think just talking about these things in the house on a regular, this shouldn't be something that you talk about once a year, right? These are things that should be evolving in your household that are becoming just normal conversations on a daily basis, really. So what are you looking for this year? What are your classes? What are you excited about? What are you nervous about? And then once you're identifying some of those things that might cause some trepidation, now you can start talking about ways to navigate that with your child before they're jumping in. And it just alleviates all those concerns and that anxiety that the kids might have. But as for like more academic or long range goals, I think it's always a good idea to go ahead and just all right, what are we looking for next year? What sort of classes are you wanting to take as a junior next year? So what do we need to do this year in order to reach that? Because the reality is, depending on what your plans are after high school, you need to be having these conversations now. Yeah. I know my daughter, she's got her head straight, right? She already knows what she wants to do. Driven. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, she can probably tell you where she will be and what she wants. Not all high schoolers are like that, and I understand. But I think it's up to us as parents to drive those conversations, and it's okay if teenagers don't know what they want to do. Yeah. But this is when you start having those conversations, and then you never know what conversation might prompt somebody to, oh, well, I never thought about radiology. Yeah. That's really cool. Right. You just never know. But I think it's up to us as parents to navigate those conversations with them, or else you're not driving that bus if you're not the one having those conversations with your kids.
I love that you said that. I think what I hear you saying too is that be intentional as a parent to set aside the time to have the conversation. Sure. So, hey, we're going to have family dinner. Well, we had never have family dinner. Well, guess what? Before the school year, we're going to sit down and maybe jot down some goals that you have. And then what I like to do with Evan sometimes is role play. So, okay, you're nervous.
I bet he loves that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it does help in the fact that if this happens, here's how you can respond. Right. Or here's, if you don't, okay, what if you go into this class and you think you're going to nail it and get an A? What if you don't? Like, how is that going to make you feel? What are you going to do? Right. How are you going to work harder? How are you going to set yourself up for success ahead of time? Okay, so I see these patterns. You don't have a planner. You don't do this, but yet you have these goals.
Right.
So you need to do what it takes to meet your goals. So I love that you said, just be intentional and have the conversation as parents. Don't expect them to get it.
Right.
They need that help.
And then I'd also say, why don't we set goals for ourselves for the school year? If you struggle having dinner as a family each night, and I know that's something we're very intentional about in our house, but if time doesn't permit, why don't you set a goal? All right, once a week, we're going to sit down as a family. We're going to do this. Or I have really good intentions, but by the time I get home from work, I don't know what I'm going to cook. So let's make a goal on Sunday. Let's go ahead and meal plan for the week so we know what we're going to have. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that as parents we can do to help be a little more consistent during the school year for our kiddos.
Do you find when parents do that and have intentional things like that it helps the student be a better student at school?
I think it does. And I think it also helps just their mental state as well, because who are you most comfortable with talking to? And it should be your family, hopefully. And so if you're providing the platform for your kids to just spark conversation, or maybe you're prompting them like, hey, how's your day?
Yeah,
it was good. No, I need more. Yeah. I think you tend to hear more from your kids if you're taking the time without the distractions of a cell phone or the television on, or
and they may push back. They may push back and think it's the stupidest thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
But I think probably most teenagers think anything us parents do are probably the stupidest things.
Right. But over time, they'll see the value of it.
Absolutely.
I love that. How can students effectively manage their time between homework, extracurricular activities, and social life?
Oh gosh, this is a big one. This is a big one. I think just like we talk about meal planning for the week as a parent, I think you have to do the same thing with your kiddo on Sunday. All right, let's all get out our calendars.
Oh yeah.
And let's go ahead and map out what our week looks like. And that calendar can be your teenager's phone, like the calendar app. You have to embrace what the kids are using, right?
Okay.
So don't push that planner, the old school planner that we grew up with.
I mean, I need to pay.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Yeah. But that's not what drives our kids anymore. And so we need to adapt to what our kiddos are using. So if they want to use that calendar app on their phone to plan, let them.
Okay.
Don't give them a hard time for that, because that's what makes most sense in their head. So let's do that. On Sundays, let's sit down and map out our week. All right, well, you're going to have a volleyball game Tuesday night, and you're going to be at the gym until 9:00. So what do you need to do during the day Tuesday to combat all the homework that you might have? So let's go ahead and say, all right, if you have extra time in any of your classes, you need to be working on that math homework. That's going to take you a couple hours. we can't expect our teenagers to know to do that all the time. And again, I think that falls on us as parents to teach them how to plan.
And that's not being an overbearing parent. I think that's being a proactive parent.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to that intentionality. Like it truly, again, we've got to drive that bus. And if we're not driving that bus, then you're just trusting that the bus is being driven and you have no idea who's
and then at the
bus.
end of the, semester or quarter or whatever, you're like, why did you get but you were never involved in helping them navigate those hard things. I love that you said, okay, let's sit down all together, because that helps you as a family know, when are we going to be together?
That's right.
And helps them learn how to ask the questions to themselves. Like you just said, okay, you have a test coming. When do you tell me, when was your plan to study for this?
Right.
And helping them learn how to do that. It's a core skill. It's an executive skill that many kids do not have
That's
on
right.
their own.
That's right.
And teaching those executive skills help them in life.
Right. And trust me, it gets tough as a parent, because you're like, oh my gosh, how many times do we have to have this conversation? But after a while, your kiddo's going to get in that routine, and they're going to start prompting that conversation without you asking.
Yeah.
They're like, hey mom, don't forget you have to pick me up on Tuesday night, or hey mom, don't forget I have to be here. They're going to start that conversation themselves with you, because you've trained them up to have the conversation. They're not going to wait on you any longer.
Yeah, that's really good. So helpful. How can parents, and you brought this question to me and I thought, you know what, this is a great question, because I had it a different way, but I love how you framed it. How can parents develop a good relationship with their students' teachers and seek help when they need it?
So I was thinking about this question, because initially you had asked, what can students do to build that relationship with teachers? And I think, one, that's going to innately happen with teachers, because we don't go into the profession because we don't like kids. We go into the profession because we love kids, and it's just where our heart is. So I think that is going to innately happen with teachers. They're going to love your kiddos from the start. But parents, and especially with teenagers, that relationship with the teachers, because you have so many of them now the student is the one that has that relationship with the teacher, and it's not you. And that's hard for a lot of parents to grasp, especially come middle school time, when those teachers are like, we're not going to talk to parents. Your students need to have that conversation. So how do you still feel connected as a parent, and how do you support the teacher? So I would say, one, what I always do as a parent, and this is probably just the educator in me, is I shoot the teachers a quick email that says, hey, here I am. I'm here to support you, but I'm going to stay out of the way and let my child navigate this school year. But I'm here if you need me. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. And then,
so you open that door.
Yes.
You say the door's here. If
Absolutely.
you need to use it, I'm opening.
And most times the teachers won't, but they will appreciate the fact that you are proactive in reaching out to them. Because then you know what that's going to tell them. Oh, this parent's involved, but they respect me enough to know that I can handle educating their child, and they're trusting me. I think trust is huge. But then I was also thinking, in today's day and age, I think us parents, we go into mama bear and papa bear mode so quick, right? Our kids come home and they tell us a story, and we immediately want to jump in and
email.
Wait a second, I need to, what happened? And so let me reach out to the teacher. And moms and dads out there, I think it's important to know that you're not always getting that whole story from the student. So give the teacher the benefit of the doubt and reach out to that teacher and say, hey, can you tell me what happened today? Because I'm hearing this, and I know there's always two sides to every story. And just don't jump off that cliff with your kiddo to begin with. Teachers are humans too. Let's extend some grace with teachers. I think we're very quick to attack these days, whether it's because something happened to your child, or you hear something and it's just, you're very quick to attack. So let's just remember that teachers are humans too, and they're going home and they're trying to run a family and raise kids. And you never know what those teachers are going through outside of school, but they're definitely putting on their big girl britches and coming to work and putting a smile on their face because they love kids, but you never know what they're battling on the side.
I love that. Two things I do, and you can correct me if this is wrong. Okay. Now I have the experts I can ask. One thing I do is I do shoot an initial email. I kind of give them some things about Evan, our son. He has high functioning autism. So I'll give them a little bit about that. And even though his report is in their file and they know, here's some quirks, here's some things he may do. I'm here. He's going to be fine. He's going to navigate this. But if you need me, here's one thing I always say, don't let me parent on the back end. And this is what I mean. And I explain what I mean by that. And I learned this. I used to teach school before when we were fresh into ministry. So I would rather deal with a problem on the front end when I see a pattern developing as a parent.
Right.
Than wait until they're in trouble, in detention or whatever the consequence is, when I could have handled it on the
absolutely
at the earlier stage.
Absolutely.
So, hey, if you see a bad or habit or pattern developing, if you'll just let me know so that I can remind him to self-correct.
Sure. There's nothing wrong with that. And as the principal, we actually ask our teachers to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait until you're so fed up with someone's behavior to reach out to us to issue discipline, when 9 times out of 10, if you just reach out to the parent, they're going to help fix that issue just themselves as the parent. Yeah.
And the second thing I always say, if there's something I don't understand, Evan comes home with, and then he keeps coming home or he keeps saying something, because rarely he will rarely complain about a teacher. Boys tend to be like, whatever.
Yeah.
But if he continues to say something, I'll just maybe shoot an email if I see it as a problem. Sometimes I just say, you know what? There are going to be teachers you don't agree with, and there are going to be teaching styles you don't agree with.
Right.
And guess what? All your life, you're going to have to deal with that. Even in workplace, you have to learn how to navigate the situation and to receive from somebody you may not agree how they're,
that's right.
So we have those conversations too. Not everyone's going to do it like you would do it. It's okay. It's okay. Their way.
Yep.
But the thing I say is to a teacher is, help me understand. That's the question I ask.
Yes.
Help me understand what you meant by this, or help me understand what you were doing.
Right.
If 9 times out of 10 or 10 out of 10, mostly, it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
I get it now. Right.
I get it. Evan, this is why they were doing it, and then it helps him understand.
Mm-hmm.
And your kids aren't seeing you as defensive all the time, because how your kids see you respond is how they're going to respond to their teachers.
Absolutely.
And if you want them to show respect to the teachers and you don't show respect to the teachers,
that's right.
They're not going to.
That's right. So you touched on something that we try very hard to do in our house, which is if we don't like the way a teacher handled something, or a sports coach, we never have those conversations as parents in front of our kids. We never, because out of respect for the teacher or the coach, you still want your child to respect the position that they are in.
That's good.
And if they're hearing you disagree with how they've handled something, then it breeds this, not animosity, but it just breeds negativity in your child, and it's never going to get better.
Because they're not going to grow from the experience. They're not going to learn how to handle conflict, right, professionally and well. And so I think asking that's good. Just help me understand even a child can go to their teacher and say, hey, Miss So-and-so, you said this or you did this. Can you help me understand what you meant by that, or help me?
That's right.
And that's a great teaching moment. And that gives the teacher time to reflect, to say, okay, maybe I could have said that differently, or maybe.
And keyboard warriors nowadays, it's real easy to shoot off an email or
Facebook.
Amen, sisters. So I have a daughter who's also going into middle school, and we've always our kiddos have those conversations with adults. We never start them as the parents. I want, if Skylar or Audrey have a question about why a teacher did this, or why they got a grade, or playing time on the court, they need to have those conversations, because I think those conversations with the coach is teaching our kids how to have those tough conversations down the road when they're adults.
Yes.
And I see this with the 20-year-olds that I'm hiring now at the high school to be teachers. They just can't have these tough conversations. They freeze. And so it's up to us as parents to teach our kiddos to have those conversations now, so we can help navigate those and teach them, all right, well, what if you had said it this way or that? And then when they're adults, they don't freeze when it's time to have those tough conversations.
I love that. That's really helpful. Okay. How can students deal with stress and anxiety related to schoolwork?
plan, which we talked about.
I think that's half of it.
That is half of it. And two, I think everybody, adults, kids, you all have to have a release of some kind, whether it's exercise or hanging out with a friend or meditating or praying or whatever that calming release is. Students need that too. So, when an elementary kiddo comes home from school, they may need to go out in that backyard and play for 30 minutes. Let them run it off. If they come in and you make them go straight to that kitchen table and start their homework, their mind hasn't had a rest yet. So I think just the stress level, you as the parent and the kiddo, you've got to learn how you can release it.
Okay. Yeah. So having that outlet, planning, all of that helps with stress, and maybe even talking to somebody. If you can't get through that stress and anxiety, you guys have great counselors at Spanish Fort and all
schools. Absolutely.
Great counselors that are trained to help them.
Yes.
I would encourage parents to utilize that resource. Have your kids set up an appointment for themselves.
A lot of people don't know this, but every high school in Baldwin County also has a social worker on top of the guidance counselors. So there's ample help if students are just courageous enough to ask for it. And parents can also reach out and say, hey, my child really needs help. And the student never has to know that the parent reached out first.
That's good. That's a good tip. This question may go hand in hand with the last one, but have you've been in education for many years. What are you seeing that students are having to deal with today that maybe 10 or 20 years ago they did not have to learn to navigate?
Oh, hands down, it's got to be social media. And just the ample access to any sort of information that they want
at all times.
At all times. I think starting with those middle school age students who are starting to get Snapchat or Instagram, or are their brains really formed enough to navigate how to operate in an anonymous platform, basically? I mean, yes, it's your profile, but kids just don't know how to do that yet. And so I think they're learning as they go. They're building the plane as they're flying it, right?
Yeah.
So I think all the issues that not all the issues, but a lot of the issues that we're seeing in the school building are derived from social media, whether it's bullying, whether it's the need to look pretty and always look the best. And I think it's creating a lot of issues that we didn't have to deal with when we were their age in school.
Wow.
And I mean, what do you do about that as a parent?
Yeah.
I mean, do you
fight against it?
Do you fight it? Do you embrace it, but with parameters? Do you, you can only use it, but out here in the kitchen, you can't take your phone to that's what we do with my 10th grader. She can't take her phone into the bedroom. What good can happen with that cell phone in the bedroom?
Nothing.
So I think parents, again, have to help teach their kids how to manage social media safely and build their kids up at the same time to where they know that just because you see it on social media doesn't mean it's true. That's not really always what those people look like.
Yeah. Yeah. So social media, and that's a hard thing to navigate. I know some schools in Baldwin County now are taking that phone away during the school. I know.
Oh, I can't wait to see how this is going to go.
I know. I'm sitting waiting with bated breath. I don't know. But like my son's school did it. I know. I think Fairhope is doing it.
They are.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think there's a lot of research out there, but you really never know until your school is in it.
Right.
I think
it's ultimately going to be great. And if I have any advice to parents during this journey,
yes,
is just to embrace it and know that it's coming from a good place. And instead of fighting it from the get-go, like, let's just roll with it. I know at Fairhope High School, they're going to get their phones back in between classes. They're going to get their phones during lunch. So they will you'll still be able to reach out to your child if you need to reach him.
But honestly, I think sometimes when we have that access, we use it for things we really don't like as a mom. And I knew I could just text Evan. I would just text, and I didn't think about it before, but that could be a distraction.
Sure.
And of course he's like, Mom, I can get it on my computer, or whatever. But ask us to do it a different way. And so we're going to obey what they ask, and respect their position, because I can only imagine, I didn't teach when there was social media or phones, or I can only imagine the distraction that is constant, and they cannot concentrate on what they're there for.
No, they can't. They can't.
Because they're bombarded with all kinds of other information.
Well, and their brains just aren't fully formed yet to be able to make that decision like, oh, that's not important. I can put that on hold. They just can't yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. How can parents support their children in having a successful school year? And I think we've already touched on that a little bit, just those intentional conversations. Is there anything else you can think about that parents can do to support their kid?
I think just being present, just as kids get distracted with social media and other distractors, I think we do too as parents. Our 21-day fast right now with the church. I'm fasting social media because I'll find myself in the evenings, as we're sitting there as a family, oh, let me just check my phone real quick. And 30 minutes have gone by and I'm in some,
deep, dark hole.
Facebook hole. I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So I think just be present, if your kiddo's in their bedroom doing homework, pop your head in and just say, hi, how's your day? Our kids may not like to acknowledge that they appreciate it, but ultimately they do. So I would just say, let's be present.
Yeah. Pastor Chad does something so good at our house when we are home. And if he hasn't seen Evan all day, and like Evan's done with his homework, so he gets to get on his video game or whatever. So he may be in his game room gaming or whatever he does on that computer. We know what he does on the computer, but I'm just saying, like, those games. Chad will just go in and sit there while he's playing.
Yeah.
Just to be present. And I think I was like, one time I was like, that was really smart, because you don't have, and they talk, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes he just goes and sits and watches Evan play a video game or,
Well, and with teenagers,
answer an email while he's just sitting in the room with him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think with teenagers, you never know when they're going to randomly decide to talk.
Right. And it's usually at the most inopportune time.
Yes, it 100% is.
Can you hold this?
But if you're creating those opportunities for them to, most of the time they may not, but you would hate to miss out on the one time they were really needing to talk about something.
Yeah. I like that. Be present. Is there anything else you would like to add, or any resources that you recommend to students or parents?
I would just say use your school officials if you need them. Like we talked about the guidance counselors, and every feeder pattern in Baldwin County also has a social worker. So, for instance, in Spanish Fort, the middle school and the elementary schools, they all share a social worker. They have their guidance counselors as well, but there's also the social worker. So there's ample help for everybody. I think we just all have to know it's okay to ask for help.
We're in a community together.
Yes.
Right. And we're all in this together.
Yes.
And
it takes a village.
Believing the best in your school, that they want what's best for my kid just as much as I want what's best for my kid. And go easy on your administrators and your teachers, especially on social media.
Yes.
Understand that there's a person behind that.
That's right.
That they have a job and they have a
family who might be reading these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you said before, you may not know the whole story.
Right.
Many times we don't. So take a pause, take a breath, say a prayer before we react.
Yes.
And respond in kindness, and maybe just send an email instead of posting on social media.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, this has been so helpful, Dr. Smith.
Thanks for having me.
That this school year is going to be great. I believe that it's going to be great, especially for Spanish Fort.
That's right. Thank you.
We're praying for you. Our church is praying for you during this 21 days, that you guys will be safe, that your kids will have the best year. And I know Chad would not want me to say this because he's a Trojan, but because he graduated from Daphne. But I hope you win lots of state championships.
Well, I live in Daphne, and my kiddos go to Daphne.
Yes,
so we're a house divided.
You're a house divided. And your daughter plays volleyball for Daphne, and that's a big rivalry.
It is.
Well,
it is.
Daphne and Spanish Fort and all the things.
Yes.
Okay, fun last question. What is one thing that needs to be on our radar? Now, this can be a food, a restaurant, a book, a podcast. What's one of your favorite things that you think should be everyone's favorite thing?
Oh, now this might show my dark side
Okay.
a little bit if we talk about
That's
this.
okay.
I love to read. You will never find me without a book in my
Okay.
purse. I take a book with me everywhere.
Love it.
And I'm old school. I have to have the real book.
Me
I can't
too.
read on a Kindle. I go to the library like at least once a week. I love the smell of a library book. I know that sounds really
No,
strange.
I'm there with you.
I'm currently addicted to Frida McFadden's
Okay.
books. They're psychological thrillers.
Ooh.
And I read to take my mind off.
What is one of their latest book? Her latest
Ooh,
book?
The Housemaid.
Okay.
If you haven't read it and you like psychological thrillers,
I think
go
I
for that
saw
one.
that because I Audible a lot too. I read a lot, but I Audible a lot, and I saw that at one of the top
it's
of the
good.
Audible list.
It's good. It's going to throw you for a loop.
Okay,
Yes.
I might have to put that on my
Okay.
list. Ooh, thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
I love a good book as well. Well, thank you for Dr. Smith for being here today
you
on
for having
Coastal
me.
Conversations. You are a blessing to our community. The wisdom and knowledge you have, every parent should be grateful at Spanish Fort that there is a godly woman at the helm of Spanish Fort High School, because you do a great work for our community. Thank you for being here today and for your time. Have a great school year.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this week's Coastal Conversations podcast. All of today's references will be found in the show notes. Also, if you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you at Coastal this Sunday as we pick the conversation up from here.